Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today's December 31st, 2022, and let's get to the news happening in Ukraine, shall we? Before I begin, I want to wish to my audience a very happy New Year's Eve or Happy New Year, wherever you are. Enjoy the time again with your family and friends. It's a great time to just really celebrate everything that was achieved in 2022. Whether it be the good or the bad, I think we should be more focusing around the positives and also reflecting on the hard work that each of us has put in, and also reflect and have an introspection into what we want to achieve for next year. So I wish you all a very happy new year, and let's make 2023 even better. Even though this year has been very, very difficult for all of us. It doesn't even include just Ukrainians, but all of us have went through so much the last few years. So I'm very optimistic for next year that things will be fantastic. So the first slide I wanted to discuss is this is a couple of days old, but the United States is considering sending Bradley IFVs to Ukraine. And I think these would be a game changer to the Ukrainian army, especially because currently, um, you know, most of the vehicles that Ukraine has been getting from the West are Humvees or Max Pros, which are decent vehicles, right? They're definitely much more lightweight and more maneuverable, but they don't have the protection that these Bradleys have. And I think that anything is better than a BMP. As you've seen, Ukraine still runs on a lot of old Soviet tech from the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, and the BMP is a 1960s era APC, which has very limited armor protection, and we've seen that it's easy to destroy, especially with modern era equipment. So I think that this would be a fantastic upgrade if Ukrainian forces could get a couple dozen of these vehicles, and it's unspecified which variant, right? There's different variants as the years progressed. The United States Army has modernized these vehicles, but the Bradleys, has proven itself on the battlefield as well in the Middle East. So personally, I think they would be a great asset. Perhaps they're not as much maintenance compared to, let's say, if it was a M1 Abrams tank, which consumes also a lot of fuel. Logistically speaking, I think this would be an easier machine to supply and maintain for the Ukraine forces than massive Abrams tanks or other larger vehicles. So let's see what's going to happen. Hopefully, in 2023, Ukraine is going to get these, and I think that they're good. They could be a very big game changer as well. Another little update. Again, most of the front lines right now are kind of back and forth, but nothing major going on. So just on Svatove, in my previous video, I did mention that the Ukraine forces did get to Kolomichicha, and now there's also Pitkuchansk that is taken by the Ukrainian forces, and also the Kraken battalion did liberate Novoselivske. Looking at the map here, it's all the same settlements just before Svatove. So it's right around here. So pretty much anything around here has been taken by the Ukrainian forces. So if we count, from this road, let's say, to the hills overlooking Svatove, it's about 8 kilometers. So the Ukrainian forces are really, really close to the outskirts of Svatove. I think taking control of these hills is going to be very crucial. But it's a slow grind, as I've said in my previous video. The Ukrainian forces work in a very methodical, slow way, and we've seen that this has paid really great rewards for the Ukrainian forces. Kherson is one of the offensives that took a lot of time, but at the end of the day, the Ukrainian forces managed to take and liberate Kherson city. So I have no doubts that in the next few weeks, months, this area is going to be completely liberated and Svatove will be taken. Apart from that, again, Kreminna is the same situation. Slow grinding attacks by the Ukrainian forces to Kreminna, and it's not really moving as quickly as we had wished for. But obviously, the Russians have put a lot of defenses throughout the city, and they also have the natural barrier of the river kind of protecting the shores. But there have been reports that I've been hearing that the command that stayed in Kreminna, the Russian command that was kind of directing, maneuvers for the Russian forces around Kreminna, have withdrawn to further away from Kreminna. So this is a potentially first sign that the Russians are getting ready to lose Kreminna and all these other settlements on this highway, the R66 highway, in the near future. And Bakhmut, same old. So the Russians are still trying to take Soledar. They're pushing through to Soledar, trying to encircle the Ukrainian forces from behind. Same thing with Opitne and the southern settlements. They're trying to push with minimal gains, if none whatsoever. It's just kind of a back and forth thing here. They get a little bit of ground, the Ukrainian forces counterattack, and they get it back. So it's a very big kind of no man's land buffer zone throughout the Bakhmut axis here. And in Donetsk, it's the same old. As I've said in my previous video, there's no real changes. The Russians try to push really outside as much as possible from Donetsk city. And that's it. So pretty much nothing new. And it's quiet again on the northern front. A lot of reports that the Russians and Belarusian army are kind of moving supplies back and forth, trying to imitate a potential offensive, just to keep the Ukrainian forces on their toes here. So we'll have to see what's going to happen next year. So that's that for the map update. Now, I haven't really talked about it, but it's so frequent now that, I'm not going to be obviously making videos every day, but today as well, on New Year's Eve, the Russians did another strike on in Ukrainian cities, on civilians and civilian infrastructure. Today, they launched more than 20 air-based cruise missiles from the Tupolev 95. Strategic bombers from the Caspian Sea. So 12 of them were shut down, but obviously 8 met their targets, and one of them actually hit, I think, a hotel complex in the center of Kiev. So obviously, no air defense system can be 100%. Even if Ukraine had the best, all the Patriot missiles it could get, and the other Avenger systems and things like that, it still wouldn't be 100%. So unfortunately, Russia will continue to do this even during the holidays. It just shows that they disregard completely, even the gray rules of war, where, usually in the holidays you would perhaps make a pause, but Russians think differently. And this is why, again, Russia needs to be stopped, because they're not going to stop unless the Ukrainian forces win completely with a total victory over the Russian forces. They're going to continue doing this. And, the fact that it's so frequent now, and I think all of us have gotten used to it, just shows um, how numb we've become as well to all this, kind of accepted the fact that, well, that's just Russia. They do these things and it's normal. So, as my last video of this year, comes to an end, first of all, I want to thank to everybody that has supported my channel the last half a year. I think I started this channel in June, middle of June of 2022, and I had zero expectations. Honestly, for me, this channel is more about just bringing the facts, some truth, some of my personal opinions, and I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible, even though I am biased because I want Ukraine to win, but I also want to give you guys true information. And I would never have thought that I would have, people would have been interested in my opinions. So huge shout out as well to Ukraine Matters, because he kind of put me on the map. A couple months ago, which kind of blew up my channel. So huge thank you to him, and check out his channel because he's also blown up this year. So lots of great things happened for me. But this last slide is about my outlook for next year about in regards to this war. So the Ukrainian armed forces are going to receive more weapons. There's no doubt about it. Leopards 2, the Bradleys, the modern jet fighters like the F-16s, more air defense systems. I think Ukraine is going to get everything it's going to ask for. And let's just take a look back in February, March, when Ukraine was just asking for howitzers and more weapons, and it seemed like even the HIMARS system seemed like a fantasy back then. That like, yeah, Ukraine's never going to get those, and we got them in June, July. And then we got Patriot missiles and IRIS-T systems from Germany, right? So as Ukraine continued to show that it's capable of winning, the West became more and more confident in giving Ukraine the weapons it necessitates to win this. And I have no doubt that in 2023, Ukraine is going to be even stronger than before with better training from the allies. You know, the Ukrainian um, soldiers are getting constantly trained by the NATO countries, so that also reinforces the strength of the Ukrainians. Um, the other bullet point is that Svatove and Kreminna will be taken by the Ukrainian forces by Q1 of next year. I have no doubt about it. Just the fact that the Ukrainian forces are 8 kilometers away from Svatove right now, as we're speaking. Um, is huge, and I have no doubt that in Q1 these two settlements, these key cities, are going to be taken, and they will weaken the positions of the Russian forces in Bakhmut, because obviously now they have a direct threat from the north as the Ukrainians start pushing from above towards Bakhmut, and obviously I think perhaps they'll start to go to Severodonetsk and liberate Lysychansk. I think that's another important city to take. So Zaporizhia offensive, I think, will begin by beginning or perhaps the end. So around Q2 of 2023, I think there will be some sort of Operation Zaporizhia. I think the Russians are aware of that. That's what they have been building defenses. But I think that obviously is going to happen. We still have to know. Obviously, we don't want to know exactly where that's going to happen. The Ukrainians are keeping a secret, but I think I'm looking forward for that offensive. And the other point is that there's definitely going to be second massive Russian mobilization in January and February, which will cause obviously more people to flee Russia. And next bullet point, an inevitable and slow collapse of the Russian economy. More bank runs from the Russian people. I've heard rumors as well. It's unconfirmed that the Russian government is planning to take the assets of their people by promising to, as war bonds, and promising obviously to repay these people eventually. But when that happens, it becomes like a war economy. And so there will be a very slow collapse of the Russian economy in 2023. There's no doubt about it. It's already happening. And the last bullet point is that there's definitely going to be, in my opinion, a second Russian attempt alongside with Belarus, potentially, with Lukashenko, on a northern offensive in Ukraine at the end of Q1. After the mobilization has been done, I think this is only going to happen when they're going to finish with the mobilization. They're going to get, the hundreds of thousands of soldiers they need to refill all these dead soldiers, So I think that it can be pretty much anywhere. It could be from, in the Volyn Oblast to, Chernihiv. Who knows, right? They have a lot of potential attacks they can take. However, as I've mentioned multiple times, this is going to be pretty much a death sentence for any army that's trying to cross from the northern front. The Ukrainian forces are prepared. It's very unpopulated areas, which means that it's very easy to defend as well because there's large forests and a lot of marshes and rivers and natural cover here for the Ukrainian forces. So for any army trying to cross any of these um, settlements from the north, it's going to be a grind. And I just can't see them being effective at doing that, even with 200,000 soldiers. Um, logistically speaking, that's also going to be terrible for the Russians, I think. So that's it, guys. Again, a huge thank you for your support for my channel. Wishing you a very happy new year. Enjoy the time with your family, friends, anybody that you enjoyed spending time with. And I will see you guys next year. Take care.